Hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your recap for Thursday, January 7th. And wow, what a big day. I mean, astounding, right, in terms of the performance today. Look at the Qs today, up 2.4% today. Big momentum there. And small caps not too shabby there either, up another 1.8%. In yesterday's video, we talked about how the IWM and small caps have been outperforming pretty decently. And the Qs kind of come in today and say not so fast. Some nice momentum. I tell you, it wasn't something that I was over positioned in or really expecting a big move out of the Qs to come right back like that. And a lot of the tech and momentum areas of the market, you could see biotech, you could see home builders. The robotic stocks were very strong. Semis were strong today. Software names were up 2.7%. But again, going back to those biotechs, up 4% for the day. And just really, really good momentum. And, one of the things that I've been talking about recently is, watching position in terms of like, where you're positioned, right? Not being necessarily all in value, even though we've seen that value rotation earlier in the week. My thoughts, and of course, videos for information purposes only, education, not giving out any advice or recommendations. But my thoughts have been is to have a little bit of exposure in multiple areas where I think they're quality names and strong names and names that even though they dip, buyers come back into. So that's where I've been kind of been mentioning. I have tilted a little bit towards value and to kind of play some of those things that we saw earlier in the week. I talked about in the morning note this morning how steel names are making new highs, materials are making new highs. A lot of different groups as well as financials as well. Sorry, lost my train of thought there, but financials too. So we saw another move down in bonds today. We'll kind of start there because again, every day, when I see a big move in bonds, I think it's interesting. The other thing that's interesting is the home builders were really strong today. So again, it's one of those things where there's demand, right? And maybe even with rates going up like this, because that's a full-on breakdown. And we talked about the bonds in. I think we started with that in yesterday's video, and I mean this is pretty good for financials, right? So a couple things that I'm in or I'm looking at, being in is the ARK F had a nice day today. All of ARK, by the way, all of the ARK ETFs did very well today. So I'm in this fintech innovation, which has got Square as the biggest name in there, but I like many of the other names that are in this ETF. This was up 3.6%, and I'm looking for this thing to get back to highs. But I think also, I've talked about regional banks have been strong. They took out a VPOC. My preference is this KCE, right, which is the Capital Markets ETF. I like the names that are in this one. Again, I'll just show you the components, but yeah, just to kind of start off there, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the nice trade setups that we've seen. But here's KCE and the members. Right, so it's a little bit more than just the banks. Morgan Stanley and Goldman are big weights in this. Virtue is a big weight. Evercore. So you've got some exchange stocks in there. You got things like Eaton Vance, Nasdaq, again, another exchange stock. ICE is in there as well. So a little bit of exchange stocks, asset managers, and the big brokers like Goldman and Morgan, as well as Interactive Brokers is also the number one stock in there too. So that's this is my favorite way besides the ARK FinTech to play. But again, that's a little bit different, the ARK FinTech versus overall financials. So to kind of just go through some of these areas in the market, it's tough to say, where to start with this. Tower Semi had a big day. That's a name that I'm long. I do go over some of the names that I'm long in here. Taiwan Semi also had a big day. The clean energy names were up. I think this is the PBW was up another 7% today. It's just crazy. The some of these moves. So I'll talk about how I'm playing this one, but like even just the how quick these moves are happening. I got into this ENPH just 2 days ago, I believe it was, at around 170, and this thing's up to 213 already. I mean, just ginormous moves. Tesla has been just an absolute animal. We continue to see call activity in this thing, and continues to move with its swing higher, but up over 7%, right? Just huge moves. If we move over to the solar stocks, they were up another 5.5% today, but this story that came out overnight was this plug, which was up 35%. So just huge moves that some of these names are making. Fuel Cell is the name that I've been long for a while. I hit a $15 target in this thing. This was a trade that I got into like around $8, and I took multiple targets, and I said, hey, I'm going to try to it's one of my things that I want to improve on in 2021. By the way, everybody should have a couple of those, on both, things like letting winners run a little bit more and cutting losers, right? Managing risks. These should all be like in your wheelhouse of like things that you're trying to improve on. You should have at least one or two things for 2021. Mine is just sticking in trades a little bit longer. I think what I really improved upon the last couple of years, because I always get the question when people look at my performance for last year, well, how'd you do it? Did you have, what were your big winners? I think really not having many big losers was what I really improved on in 2020. 2021, if I can stick with that discipline of just not sticking in trades, once a stop gets hit, I get stopped. You stop yourself out, right? But really, what I want to work on in 2021 is making sure that I'm leaving, even if it's a small portion of the trade, leaving that on and setting a trailing stop. I get that question all the time in the trading room once a name breaks out. Well, where are you going to take a target? Where how are you going to take this thing off? There's always, I think, with newer traders, like a lot of animosity when a name breaks out what to do. And it does require, there's no easy answer for that, by the way. You have to do you have to monitor the trade and realize that if you use a trailing stop, you're not going to get the absolute high of the stock, which more experienced traders do realize over time that no one can predict what level a stock is going to get to. So trailing stops are the way to kind of manage that. So I'm still in this fuel cell. I did take a target at $15 today. So but exciting, right? I started to talk a little bit about the semiconductors. I talked about this stock yesterday. I wanted to bring it up today. Look like a pretty clean breakout to me to the downside. Hit all the way down here, but it's very difficult to short stocks in this environment. This thing comes right back up almost 6% for the day. Just extremely strong. Applied Materials was a name that we talked about yesterday. Look at this stock go. Right. By the way, this is where your strength is in this market. LRCX is another one, right? And we already mentioned Taiwan Semiconductor, and Taiwan Semiconductor is up like 11% in a couple days. It's remarkable the momentum that's in this market. I'm in this one, this Tower Semiconductor. I blew it in this one last week. I was in AMBA looking for a breakout. The breakout happened. I'm not in it anymore. But hey, listen, that's part of the game. Is that sometimes you're going to get shaken out of positions a little bit when you think things might break down. But nice to see some of the names that even though I got shaken out of this one, that the idea was right. All right, so. What else? A couple trades that we talked about yesterday. Carvana, nice move. We talked about this one in the room yesterday. Real nice support. Bounce into that and to the top of value. What was the next one that I was going to bring up that we talked about yesterday? I'm forgetting which one it is. There's been so many. Oh, Teladoc. How could I forget that one? I think we talked about that in yesterday's video too. Or if not, if I'm forgetting, but you got another monster move, 12% in this thing today. So again, lots of areas of the market. that are participating. That's kind of my other theme of the day that I have written down here is strong breath and strong momentum. I've been talking a lot about this McClellan summation index. It started to finally turn up yesterday. So, it depends if you use a 10-day moving average, if you use a 5-day moving average, but I think this thing is going to be close to probably not, but probably not got the crossover today because again, there's a 1-day lag with this, or I think they may publish it like at like 8 o'clock at night or something like that. But I would watch for this thing to actually come in and get close to crossing over in that one. All right, a couple other ones. I mentioned this morning that speaking of the ARC funds, monster day in the genomic ETF, up 8.5% today. Also, despite all those puts that we've been seeing in the ARC Innovation ETF, right back out to 52-week highs. And I started to say in the beginning of this video about that it's very difficult to short in this market. It's very difficult to go across the grain right now. I was listening to Benzinga pre-market show, which is a great show to listen to in the morning, and they were talking about I don't know how you put on shorts in this market. Right now, my opinion is stick with the trend, stick with the momentum until things break down, and if you can catch a name that you find that's really overbought and you want to take a shot at it to the short side, I think trading it smaller, as well as if you have a profit, you may want to think about grabbing it quickly, right? For example, now I'm just illustrating one example, but I traded this Fubo a couple weeks ago when it got to a 95 RSI, because there's another point that I wanted to make here, right? Excuse me, it got to a 91, RSI. That's usually my, sometimes I'll take a shot when we've got a hockey stick pattern to go short something. And it took a little while. It took a couple days for this to work, but it did work. This one did retreat back pretty decently and is now in consolidation mode. But that's to me where I think it's worthwhile to take a shot on some things to the short side, but you have to really be careful. Because sometimes they snap back so quickly, just like this ARC ETF, which the RSI on this got to an 85, which was clearly overbought, and you got a couple days of a pullback in this thing, right, and then it got bought up again. One that I would be watching, that's also overbought here is Bitcoin. I'm not sure that I would want to sell, short Bitcoin. But look at the RSI on this, right? And right now it is a 95. So you kind of have to have the courage to do it. It hit 41,000 today. Just as for illustration purposes, remember what happened here, right? It got overbought when this thing was at 18,000, 19,000, right? The RSI was an 86, and you had like a pretty decent dump into that. And then you had consolidation, right? I actually posted a bunch of charts of Bitcoin once it came into the 20-day moving average. This was all the way back at 18,000, right? So I think at this point, if you want to get into Bitcoin, it's probably going to get a little bit of a correction coming. Or if it doesn't get that, then consolidation. All right. So, I think it's coming. Trades. So we'll talk about my trades today, because I always like to illustrate that. Right? We talked about fuel cell. A lot of exits for me today. Right? NEO. My plan is to own NEO until their event day, which is Saturday. So I'm holding this. I took another target today, but I'm looking to hold this one more day. And then, I don't know, maybe put on a small call position or something like that for the event. But normally how I play these trades, when everybody knows that there's an event for it, I look for the run into the event, and then maybe have a small piece or even sell it before the event. But it's nice to have a little bit of exposure in case they do come out with something that people aren't expecting. But for the most part, remember, a lot of trading is buy the rumor, sell the news. So that's how I'm playing this one. I will sell my stock position and maybe put on, a small trade for the actual event. Fuel cell mentioned that one. Okta, I think I even got out of this one a little bit too soon. I just wasn't sure that we were going to get such a powerful day, but up 4.6% to. So this was a trade that I put on, I think, yesterday, and got out of this one $13. Twilio was a was a nice one too. I was patient with some of these names. Twilio had a monster day today, 357. So this was a nice trade for me. Oh, I must have put the wrong price. That's wrong. Whoops. So 374. But when I got I did get out of this Twilio, and that was at 350. So that's a bad price. Uh, I do make mistakes. I do make mistakes. That's definitely a typo there. It didn't trade at 374, so I'll correct that. Spotify, I did a little bit of trade management in this yesterday. Whenever you put on a call spread, as long as a name kind of doesn't completely break down, what I did was I unwound the short portion of the call spread, right? So I did this in here, just for $1.50, right? So then what happens is you're left with an outright call. So I made some nice money on this one. I sold this for $6. I paid 340 for the call spread. Now you have to add in the price that you covered, but I got the trade to work, right? So a little bit of trade management, and the trade worked. Nuance was the name that we talked about yesterday. I was able to take a couple targets in this one. Nuance out to new highs. I want to stick with it, but of course take some profits. Uber got to work today too. Really nice in Uber. Out to new high again, out to 56.25 today. Beautiful move. So just one of those days. I'll talk about a couple new trades that I was looking at or put on. This one I did put on. I didn't get the move that I was looking for today. I kept this position on, but it's pretty. It's not coiled because you need three moving averages, but I like the consolidation here. I like the really tight value area. So I'm looking for a move higher here in Honeywell. And again, I view Honeywell as quality in the industrial space. So I took a shot at that one. Again, making sure that I've got some exposure to maybe an industrial, to maybe a rail. And CSX worked for me today too. So CSX was a name we talked about yesterday too. That was a new trade. I liked that candle yesterday. Big green candle yesterday. Again, chasing a little bit, right? I didn't catch the absolute bottom. I didn't catch the bounce off the 50-day moving average. I caught it here. Still, that's a nice move today in CSX. To kind of go through some more, Okta, Uber, TSM. Yeah, Crowd was also one that I purchased the other day. Right, into a little bit of baby pullback, right, and almost out to new highs. A couple other names that I'm watching for tomorrow. AMD, very close. We saw repeat call activity in AMD. AMD's been a tough one. It's when you look at this chart, basically from all the way back to August, this name really hasn't done much, right? It's flirted with having some momentum, but every time it has a little bit of momentum, it kind of stalls. So I don't know. Will it go this time? We've certainly seen call buying a lot over the last couple months, which really hasn't panned out. But what I would watch is a break. It did close above 95. I would use 95, 94 as your bogey. Make sure this thing stays above there, and maybe this will be real this time in AMD. But a lot of consolidation. Let's face it. Over the last 3-4 months, it's been an underperformer in the group. Believe it or not. We talked about that a little bit yesterday too. That names like Applied Materials, Micron, Lam Research, ASML have been the leaders within this group. Avago, I think, was up big today too. Avago also, Broadcom. Sorry, not Avago. Broadcom. That's the old name. Also out to 52-week highs again. So I love it when the semiconductors. This was our chart of the day yesterday, by the way. Was the semiconductors, and I had a day lag. I was a day early on this. So every day I send out a chart of the day. Today yesterday was SMH. All right, and last one that I'm looking at for tomorrow, I think I put that in our charts channel. AMD, iRobot saw some calls today. Oh, SE, this thing is very close to breaking higher too. I would also put this on the watch list for tomorrow. Here's the one I was just thinking of. TTD. We've seen a nice turn in some names. Shop had also a big day today. Look at that green candle, and look at where it found support. By the way, right into the previous breakout. It's going to have to contend with some resistance here at 1177, but very strong. But maybe this name is next for a nice turn. I would watch the trade desk tomorrow in the high growth area. All right, guys, that's it for today. Just quick strategy thought. What I generally do when I have, I just walked you through that trade blotter, and when I've got multiple names that I'm taking targets in, and things are working, I try to what does everybody say right now? They're trimming, trimming and nibble, right? You hear those two terms a lot. Um, you know, when I'm buying the dip, when I bought names like Twilio, PayPal, CrowdStrike earlier in the week, and in the high growth area, I was doing nibbling, right? I was starting positions. PayPal I started and then added to the position, which I think PayPal looks pretty good here too. And then on days like this, I'm trimming, right? So you buy a little bit of the dip and you sell the rip a little bit. I think this PayPal has a chance to kind of get out of this little flag pattern. So another name to watch for tomorrow. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, jobs number tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. Also, our weekend watch list, right? So I will send out the video on this, how we do this every weekend. But I mean, Lending Club. Did you see this name today? Right. So again, I'm holding all these names until tomorrow, and then I trade out of them in a system called M1 Finance. Right. It's a portfolio trading type system, and I will be substituting out of these names and into SPY for the weekend. But I mean, look at for the week. The solar ETF up 18%, just amazing. Here's the Lending Club. Notice where this found support. Right, it kind of came right in back into the top of value. That was when the stock was at 940. Now it's all the way up to 1152. So very impressive. I've been long that one for this move this week. It actually started off on Monday where it actually went down, and look at it go from there. So very impressive. Have a great night, everybody. If you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, get on board. Visit us, or you could go right to my Twitter handle. Click the pinned link on my profile, and you can get involved. Again,